two things. What is the promised land, or what could the promised land be? And who occupies it? Who is there with you in the promised land? So first off, look at the promised land like this. We've been talking about identity a lot. I did a live today, which kind of pointed us in the direction of identity being purpose, being your God-given purpose. I was talking about identity and how, we are to put on Christ, put on the identity of Christ, but there's something lost in translation saying it that way. So I'm saying it this way now. Your identity is your God-given purpose from God. Your God-given purpose from God. Thanks to, I'm going to give a shout out to Jamie Winship. And this is a very clear picture from his book. I think it's Living Fearless. So this idea of pointing us to identity being the thing that God put in you from birth, which I think we've had an idea of that, but I was explaining it before as the identity being the identity of Christ that we're to walk in and we're to live from, which is true. However, identity coupled with the nature of Christ is a better way to say that. So we have a God-given identity that we are to walk through this earth with, but it has to be fortified. It has to be surrounded and shielded with the nature of Christ. This is what makes us able to have the authority and the dominion needed to live from that identity and to produce from that God-given identity. So in saying that, identity can also be looked at as your promised land. Identity is your promised land. What does God say you are? What is he instinctively put in you that either you have to find out, you're becoming aware of, or you need to know. So that thing is crucial for you to start to live from. So that's your promised land. It's what God says you are. So when you walk in that direction into this place or this space where you are to reveal the dominion and the power that makes that, I should say, because it's Christ who is the power, but the nature of Christ empowers your identity. So as you walk into these atmospheres, into these places, you are to display that characteristic, because that's the thing that not only makes you win, but it changes the atmosphere. But the whole thing is, wow, this is my promised land. Now there are some gray areas in there that may need some a little bit in illumination, but just stay there. So that's your promised land. So you don't have to look for all of these outside things to make it make sense, because this is who God says you are. And this is what this nature with Christ's character will allow you to produce from. So when we say, the Bible talks about the promised land and the giants, they did the scouting out and they said, man, these giants are big. Who are the giants that are there and that are meant to be there in your promised land? Those giants are the opposite of what God says you are. I remember years ago that the Lord was showing me that, the scripture said he has prepared a table before you in the presence of your enemies. I was like, well, who are the enemies? Just really simply asking the question without trying to know the answer. Felt like the Spirit was like, a side or a portion of those enemies are fear, doubt, worry, guilt, shame, just those characteristics that are opposite of the fruit of the Spirit. Those are the real enemies. So as you are exercising your identity, as you are, which is your promised land, and inside of that promised land, which is what God says you are, also is what you think you're not, or what's the opposite of what God says you are. So instead of trying to look at the giants as being these demonic forces, these demons and these devils, and I'm not saying that they're not there, but I'm saying when you can perceive a thing differently, then it really sets you up for a genuine breakthrough or a genuine sense of power or belonging with God. So when you look at your enemy as being the opposite of what God says you are, I believe you can maneuver through those moments a little bit better, a little bit clearer. Because the truth is, if you think you're facing 100 soldiers, 100 physical soldiers, and they are equipped with all kind of artillery, then what if that perspective shifted and you realize the soldiers that you are facing are your own physical fears and limitations about what you experience or even about what God says you are? If you can see that, that's a little bit more manageable than actual physical forces. Again, I'm not saying that demonic activity is not there, somewhere, but I am saying the thing that you should recognize and witness as your enemy is your own viewpoint of what God says you are. It's your limited viewpoint. It's a poor vision. It's a dirty scope of what God says you are. So when you walk in that and when you understand it, for being that, you're going to be able to maneuver that thing a whole lot better. So just wanted to stop in and say that, Pastor Jamal, Rising Ground Church. I'll talk to you. Peace.